say, kids? What time is it?
Hey, it's Edson, GeekTime TV. I've been waiting very patiently for any significant news out of Dune Part 2 coming up this November. It's been like a year and a half since Part 1 came out, and they just gave the first trailer, which I was very excited about. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just want to touch on a couple of things. And I did like, I'm going to say right off the bat, this was a trailer done very well. I'm also going to say, give kind of like a warning about spoilers. I mean, a trailer by definition is going to give spoilers in it as it is. But what I mean is, I might, when I touch on a couple of things on it, I might give a little bit more into the details on the book. I'm not exactly sure how close the movie's going to be based on part one. It will, I believe, it will honor the source material, which I love. I do want to give a warning that there will be some spoilers coming from the book that I will expound on. So let's take a look at this. Just a couple of places here. First thing is here we have um, Paul and Cheney. Cheney played by Zendaya. We didn't see a lot of her character in the first part, but we're going to see tons of her in the second part. This is not a spoiler because the director, Denis Villeneuve, has said more than once that she was going to be at the center of part two. That's because Paul develops that's going to be the best relationship. The closest relationship he has is going to be with her. She's going to be his anchor when he runs into difficulty or he's very uncertain about things, or if he gets lost with his visions. She's going to be there to ground him. And of course, they're going to fall very deeply in love with each other. And they have there's a great little scene here where he's explaining to her how in his home planet there's so much water that you have oceans and oceans of it, and you can dive in, and it's called swimming. And she, of course, laughs this off. She doesn't believe him because the concept of having that much water in one place is like it's foreign to her because she lives in a completely desert planet. So she kind of thinks that he's kidding he's kidding around with her. Okay, so the next part is, let's see, here we have a new character, new in terms of that she was not in part one. This is Princess Irulan, one of the Emperor's daughters. And I love that they have her here dictating into a recording device because this ties back into the book where Irulan is one of those characters. She's known as a scholar and a writer. She kind of chronicles all the events that goes on around this time period for future generations. She writes many books, and I love seeing this with her, this aspect of her, because in the book, Frank Herbert starts off every chapter with like a passage from one of her books, which kind of frames what might happen in the chapter itself or later on in the book. And it's like one of those quirky little things I really like, and I like seeing that they have this aspect of her here. She's a minor character, but something that I have a soft heart for, because she's kind of given a bad deal. She has a lot of choices taken away from her and isn't treated very well, but I like her character. Played by Florence Pugh here. In this movie, the Lynch David Lynch movie, I believe it was Virginia Madsen, and also there was a TV miniseries in which I believe it was Julie Cox who played her, but in none of those did I see this aspect of her being the person who chronicles things for the history books. Okay, so next thing I want to take a look at is we have a shot of, let's see, the Baron here, played by Skarsgård, and just showing him, as menacing as ever. I love the he this is a great casting decision, of course, and the way they have him appear is uh, just very menacing, just exactly how I would have pictured from the book. And also we have another new character. Uh, let's see. Here we have the Baron Harkonnen's nephew, which again, like Princess Erlin, we did not see him in the first part, but he plays a very pivotal role in the second part here. Um, they show him in this trailer. They show him mainly parts of him in the fighting arena. This is basically his life. He grew up just learning just all sorts of methods of fighting. That's what he mainly does, and he goes into this arena that the Harkonnens have for their slaves, and practices his fighting on killing their slaves. Yeah, he just loves the art of fighting, which kind of foreshadows something that comes on later on when he has an epic battle against Paul later on. The Harkonnens seem to have a this bald motif here, which kind of makes me a little self-conscious. But okay, well, let's move on. Then we have, let's see, probably one of my favorite parts of this trailer. Well, it's definitely one of the longest parts of this trip, but it might take like half the trailer, is this worm riding scene. Um, and you see here, trying to get to the part where you actually see, oh, can't quite get it. Here we go. So there's a lot of shots of Paul going through his worm riding sequence. I just want to take a few minutes here to talk about it. It's just an awesome scene. It does really show the immensity of the worms compared to human beings, and the dangers of worm riding. Now, in the book, this is going to be this is definitely a spoiler from the book, but not a spoiler in terms of the plot, because we already see him successfully ride a worm here. But I'm going to go more like into the mechanics of this process of how to achieve riding a massive worm, which I just think it was a great concept by Frank Herbert. So the way they describe it in the book, the way he describes it in the book, is so the Fremen live in a desert planet. It's all desert, and they need to figure out how to cross vast amounts of desert in a short amount of time. So they figured out how to ride a worm. A worm goes very, very fast, either underneath the sand or above the sand. So they figured out how to use them to as transportation, basically. So they start off by setting a mechanical device called a thumper. You actually see that shot here in the trailer where Paul puts a thumper, and what it does is it gives off a rhythmic sound, a thumping sound. Worms are attracted by sound, especially sounds that come in rhythm, and they'll detect it from very, very far, miles away. And as soon as they hear it, they are immediately attracted to it and go speedily towards it, and they'll devour anything in its sight to get to it. And so the first part is to actually set this thumper to call the worm, and then the Fremen will go off to the side, waiting for the worm to get there. And as the worm approaches, they'll run to the worm as it passes by, and with these huge hooks, they'll hook onto the worm. And what the hooks do is that they open up the segment of the worm, and when that happens, the sand goes into it, and it irritates the heck out of the worm in that segment. So what the worm does in response to that, it instinctively rotates its body upwards so that the exposed segment is not touching the sand. And when it does that, the Fremen will hold on to the hooks and kind of like be brought up to the top of the worm, and that's how they achieve getting on top of the worm. Once they're there, they just hold on, just like Paul does here, and they just ride the worm as they go. And then they even figured out how to navigate the worm by turning left and right. So if they wanted to turn left, what they'll do is they'll use one of the hooks and open up a segment on the right hand side of it. And as the worm tries to protect that segment, it will rotate over to the left, and vice versa if they want to turn to the right. So it's very, really ingenious the way Frank Herbert describes this. When you see it on the trailer, it doesn't look like they do exactly what I have just described. It does look like Paul runs up from the top of a cliff, and as the worm comes, jumps on top of it. But that's fine. I'm not complaining about that, because the shots that they show here in the trailer is they're just so awesome. This is like the type of scenery that you'd love to see in a big screen. And you clearly see, like I said, the immensity of the worm as compared to people, and how dangerous this is. And some people might say, well, they showed way too much. They showed Paul achieving this. But I say that that's a great idea, because this scene with the worm riding is not one of those climactic scenes where it's going to tell you the finality of the story or anything like that. So I did love seeing this, how he achieved it, and then especially this reaction here, um, um, Stilgar, and Jardine Bardem, who's a great actor. And this look here tells you volumes and volumes of what he's seeing. Not just, obviously, Stilgar has seen many Fremen ride a worm, but to see Paul achieve it is like he has sort of like a spiritual experience as he looks on in awe, because here is somebody, an outsider who's not known anything about the Fremen, and in a very short time has learned one of their greatest achievements, riding a worm. And he's kind of looking at Paul in awe because of his accomplishment, because the Fremen have this. Another spoiler here. The Fremen have this legend that they've known for hundreds of years, that someone will come, an outsider will come, and then they will know their ways as if born to them, even though he's not born to them. And here he is. This look tells you so much of how he looks on at Paul. He's looking at him and thinking, here is this legend that they've been known for many years, because he's achieving this. And it's just I just love this. It's the worm riding for the Fremen is kind of like a coming of age thing. It's like when you turn from child to adulthood, you achieve the worm riding, and it's obviously very dangerous. It's not something that you take lightly. It's not something if you fail, you try and try again. Most likely, if you're the very first time you try it, if you fail, you're most likely dead, because you're going to get run over by the worm or be buried in the sand that gets displaced by the worm. So I just love this look, and it just tells you everything you need to know of how the Fremen will come to think of as Paul. Um, just a couple more things on maybe it's not the last thing, but maybe the second to last thing is wanted to talk about is here. Here is looks like the battle between Paul and Feyd-Rautha. I'm not sure if I said when I was describing the Baron Harkonnen's nephew. His name is Feyd-Rautha, who's like known as a great fighter, and always practicing fighting. And here's Paul going up against him. I love how they're silhouetted against it. It's a great shot. Not only that, in the dialogue that Paul uses here is, "May thy knife chip and shatter." It's something that the Fremen say to their opponents just before they engage in a knife fight. Um, uh, Paul has become now fully Fremen now, and using that, and it's direct. It's the direct dialogue straight from the book. I love how in this movie, so much honor is given to the source material, all the stuff that we've seen, mostly especially in the last couple of years with these remakes and things about movies and TV series with based on so many of the IPs that I grew up with, and it seems like so many people are out to just not honor the source material, just put their own opinion into it and kind of just like ruin a lot of IPs that I'm very that I like so much. And I was just hoping that in this case, because Dune is one of my favorite books, I was just hoping in this case it wouldn't happen. And I could see from Dune Part One and from this trailer that looks like they're gonna give a lot to the source material as close as it possibly can. And I just love that. May thy knife chip and shatter. And then the last thing, well, yeah, the very last thing we have here. I love this shot here. This is an incredible shot. Here's Paul on top of a cliff, and you see like literally thousands of Fremen down there, and he's like rallying them into a fight as we get to the climax of the movie. And you could tell like it's gonna be an epic fight, and just the way they respond to him, it's an incredible shot here. And that's it. I just, like I said, I thought this trailer was as good as it could be. I'm hoping that they'll put it, do another trailer maybe in the summertime or as we get close to the movie. But I don't know how they're going to beat this, because this was great. The music too. I almost forgot to say, I love the music in this. It kept inside my head. After I saw the trailer a couple times, it just kept playing inside my head. I couldn't get rid of it. It's such a haunting at times, and it's just so it just fits this kind of like landscape, and it's so good. I believe it's Hans Zimmerman that does the music. He's really great. So, and there you have it. I don't know. I don't know how this trailer could be any better. Like I said, it's a well done trailer, and it just gets me that much more excited for the movie. It's gonna be a long wait till November, but it'll be great. It's definitely a movie that you could tell from this trailer and from the first, Dune Part One. It's definitely a movie you want to see on the biggest screen you can find. Okay, that's it for me. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the trailer. Anything else interesting that grabbed you? I'm sure I missed quite a few things, but those are the kind of the highlights I wanted to touch on. But let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up below. Also, please subscribe to GeekTime TV. It really helps us grow the channel. And make sure you hit that bell icon in order to receive notifications every time we drop new content here. You can also check us out on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at GeekTimeNet. Thanks again for watching. We will see you soon.
Say, kids, what time is that?